Hi everyone. Thanks for joining. I do this every weekend. I just show up with a couple of people on this call. Last year we had 21 episodes. It started like a conversation with a few friends of mine in India. They joined the call. We had a session, and it was the next session and the next session. Before we knew it, we did 21 episode. Every week we show up. In weeks where we are unable to show up, we show up with two speakers. In January, we put out an idea for the entire year, which was like our calendar year, where we're just looking at how to scale from just that little signal of an idea all the way to scale. The month of February for us was just focused on builders, the stories that we never hear. The media has a way. I'm being a marketing expert, all my like 15 years in marketing, PR, and the rest of it, and I understand that we only tell the very interesting stories, those very important stories, how the founders break their back, the grit, and the rest of it. Sometimes don't even make the limelight, right? Everybody's interested in the very glossy stories. So for me, one of the things that I like to do, this is more or less like I give back to founders. It's just going to that story. Like, let's be very real. Don't paint it. Don't sugarcoat it for me. There's no investment you are trying to get from Ayola like this. So let's just say it the way it is, so that other people can learn from your journey, and then can also know that what they are going through, founders like yourself have also gone through it. Earlier in the month, we had Adeshino, on the call. Adewumi Adeshino on the call. He also was an ex-Bowenite, and is the guy leading trade lender. Great guy, fantastic guy. Had a very great session with us. And then last week, or 2 weeks ago, we had Ibukun Adebayo. He's doing fantastic stuff as well. He's exited his startup, but he's currently working in one of the biggest investment firm out of the US. And for him, it was just more or less just speaking about his journey and how he started out. Today I have two fantastic men, people I look up to, but they don't know I look up to them. I'll tell you the story. While we were at Bowen, John, just so that I called Tunde out on this call. While we were at Bowen, Tunde was an Efiko. And, we used to go partying and do all those stuff. And we still had good grades. At least I finished with a 2-1. But Tunde was the Efiko. Everybody was looking for Tunde in school. Tunde was that guy with so much brains. I'm not surprised about his growth, but he was that guy that I was looking up to. It was in economics, right, Tunde?
Yeah, Echo.
It was in Echo, economics. And I was studying mass comm. I even was president of mass comm. And, every time I'm like, who is this guy that is coming up with? Tunde was breaking records. Every semester, there's this guy with a record. Who is this guy? Don't you have a social life? How are you doing this thing, So Tunde, I'm going to tell us all that story of how, you've done all that thing and then transitioning it into business. Is it because you are an Efiko that you're able to run a successful business? John, I don't know your story, so you have to tell me your story as well.
Tunde is still an Efiko, by the way. Let me just drop that one. He's an Efiko founder that we're still looking for. I'm doing it.
And every time I'm asking myself, is it because this guy is just brilliant? Is it because he's intelligent? Is that what I need to be a successful founder? Can a not so intelligent founder run a business? I think that's another conversation. We used to open the floor, and then two of you just introduce yourself. So Tunde, let's hear your side. Is it because you are very intelligent, or you guys have intelligence running in your family?
Oh my goodness, that's a very funny. This is one part of this conversation that never comes out because nobody has ever interviewed me that knows me from Bowen, at least not that well, anyway. I don't think so. In fact, I think that I always say that risk tolerance and boldness is actually more important than intelligence, right? Which I think has been proven time and time again. But I think that I don't know that there's any direct link, to be honest. I don't think so. But I think that there's definitely a link for the grit, for the resilience, which people have. I think a lot of people in school were not just interested. I think that there are lots of people that are more intelligent than me in terms of being gifted naturally. But I feel like many people were not just interested in academia.
Yeah. So John, let me ask you a question. I know that Tunde, while we were in school, never ran a business, and for him, I'm not sure he was one of those guys that had like a business center, or maybe it was like a gaming center. Because there were some guys that had laptops that were renting their laptop for you to play games, right? There were guys that were selling gadgets. Tunde, I'm not sure you ever sold anything in school. How did you get into business? And John, what's your own story? Because like, did you have all that going for you?
Yeah, funny enough, I think Tunde already sort of touched on it, right? When he said that he realized he had like a competitive streak. I think that there is an innate competitive instinct that some people are born with or come with that keeps them restless till they find their way, whatever it is, whether it's academia, whether it's business, whether it's like a career. Like, there's just something in you that wants to be the best. There's something in you that wants to get it right. So it pushes you to think through. It pushes you to check when you make mistakes, what to adjust. If you check all the business principles, they come embedded in that restlessness, right? So other people will say, I didn't pass this lecture because the lecturer didn't teach well. You will say, the other guy that passed, does he have two heads? So while the other guy is looking outward, you will be looking inward, you know? And I think over time, I've seen that that's the thing, because, I mean, honored to be sitting beside Tunde, but John doesn't have a university degree, right? But I realized that because I knew what I wanted and I was self-focused and I had that competitive spirit, I'm looking at my brother, I'm looking at my classmates who have dropped out, I'm looking at what, you know, that thing drives you to learn what you need to learn, fix what you need to fix, focus on what you need to focus on to grow. As against the other guy who has many reasons why Nigeria is hard. Maybe if I get to Canada, or I married the wrong wife, or I did this, that. And the problem is always external. You know, the guys who are competitive, they look inside. So they fix the problems and they figure it out. So I think Tunde touched on it. And sorry, I was just sort of filling the space for him to come back. But Tunde, please.
That's really
cool. All right, my go ahead.
So Tunde, I was saying that I know that you never ran a business in school. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, funny enough, I tried though. I ran a successful one. Maybe you didn't know. You know, we used to sell neck earpieces then. I would go to Lagos. There were these earpieces, NEC white. You know, everybody was trying to get iPod or Zoom, and there was a lot of MP3 players at the time. And people were selling this thing for 1.5, right? So I quietly went to Lagos market and I saw that it was 300 naira. And I'm like, oh, this doesn't make any sense. This is an opportunity here, right? So I did bring it at the time. But obviously I didn't have, it's not like I had a lot of money to buy plenty. Maybe I bought worth maybe 15 or 20K, which at the time was still a lot of money, because how much was my pocket money, right? So I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think the flip side, and I was really feeling what John was saying, because I think I also felt a bias, because many people were also, I feel, dismissive about me as an EFICO, right? Which is like, all the first class people, you will come and be my employees. You guys will not make money. You guys are going to be broke and be lecturers in university. And I always felt that. Why would people say? And so that thing challenged me, actually, personally. I always felt insulted anytime anybody said that, like, I bet all of you gonna be, you gonna work for the third class, you gonna work for the people.
Yeah, but it was a trend. It was a trend at that period.
It was, and people still say that actually, but I just felt that it wasn't. I was determined not to let it apply to me, basically. I'm not going to be the broke smart guy that will be looking for a job or be suffering, right? So I always had an interest in business. The way I had an interest in academia, I had interest in business. Like I said, there are many guys, I feel like intelligence, many people, but in terms of just, many people were not just interested. And for good reason in some instances. Some people already had successful businesses running, right? And there are some people that have been blessed with that business from day one. Look at our friend Kiki. Kiki has been doing business since, right? And everybody already knew her as she won most enterprising in 400 level, right? When we graduated. So it's not surprised to see what she's doing now. But other people had to find their path, including me. I worked a bit, and working was part of going to learn about how a company runs, how people sell, how people market. And my whole plan was to go and work for 5 to 10 years and then go and do business, which is exactly what happened. But I don't want to have screen time too much.
Let me ask John a question, and Tunde, both of you. Do you think that as founders, having that experience working with someone is a very good foundation, to be a successful founder, plus or minus? I'm throwing you guys in the deep, so be very careful how you answer that question.
So I think that, one of the biggest problems we have in the world today is that we like blanket answers, right? So we want to either say it's good or it's not good.
That's
and the reality is that I can understand why, because innately some of us are sort of like lazy, so we just need a formula. We don't want to think every single time. But the reality is that answer is different for different people. I believe that if my career started, if I finished school and I got a degree, I will not be the entrepreneur that I am today, because as a person, I may have been competing inside another person's business to become the best employee. So I think that the most important thing is, one, being deliberate. If you hear what Tunde said, he said for him, he went to work to learn. So he already knew where he was going. He knew that what it took to do what he was going to do was for him to learn somewhere else. It worked for him. Some other person will go and get a job with no clear direction of what the plan is and be sucked in or not sucked in. And to be honest, there's no one that is bad, right? So if you're in a job, it's not bad. The only thing is that I think that and this is what I teach my children, we need to teach ourselves deliberacy and knowing yourself. Like knowing yourself and knowing what you need and figuring out how what you need needs to play out. I'm very sure my answer would frustrate some people, because some people just like, it's good to go and learn for 5 years, then do this. Or it's good to this. But the reality is that it's never a one size fits all. For different people, different things apply. What you really need is, if you can get a sense of who you are, because you can't know it all. But if you get a sense of who you are, then figure out what do you need. A few of the mentors I worked with early shaped my entrepreneurship mindset. And I think that was good for me. But I can also show you people who got into jobs 30 years down the line. They have so many ideas, or ideas they should have sort of hit and they never did, just because they got sucked into, this whole thing. So for me, I would say there's no one size fits all, just depending on a person and how you sort of want to plan your life in a manner of speaking.
Tunde, let's have you before I start to hit you guys with the other questions I have for you today.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love John's answer, because one of the first answer I give now, people always ask the questions like, should I start a business? Should I quit a job? Or should I start a business out of school? And the answer, even if people will laugh at you when you say it, is it depends. And a lot of times it depends on who you are. Then you can do this. So for me, people that I feel like are similar to my own kind of character is like, okay, who are you and what is your circumstances? Not.
Okay, I think we lost Tunde again. Maybe the call.
Maybe.
All right. So John, let me just allow you to do a bit of an intro about Construct itself. And then we can come back to Tunde's part of that question. Just a brief intro about yourself. What got you to the idea? What were you looking at?
Let me think.
Tunde, sorry, I think you're having some network issues. John, I think you can go ahead. Like, how did that idea come up? Like, what were you thinking? What did you see?
Yeah.
What was your goal?
Yeah, I think one of the important things to note about me is that I'm in my 23rd year in real estate.
Wow.
Wow.
John, just before you add to that, right? I think people also underestimate the experience people even get in places like before they become popular, in like university, in your early days. That is also experience, right? Again, Kiki was already doing fashion designing in school.
Yeah.
So she has 3 years experience. Forget post NYC. And then if she now starts the business after NYC, people will say, "Oh, you don't have experience," but that's not correct. Her cost was already there since 100 or 200 level, right?
Of course.
So that is experience. So if her starting a business is different from me, that I've never done anything, never sold one shoe, and I'm called out of school and I say, "Oh, I have zero experience." So I'm sorry to interrupt you, John, but I just thought that was an excellent point. Yeah.
At all. I think we're having a conversation, and I'm happy with that point as well. By the way, I know Kiki, and she's somebody that I respect as well from maybe 17 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, because my benchmark is my kids turned 14 this year, and when I met Kiki, I wasn't even married. So about 17 years. And you can just underestimate that and think that she just showed up to win a competition in 2026.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, back to myself and Construct. I'm at LASU after being in Covenant and in UST and getting kicked out for various reasons, and it's exam day. I haven't paid my school fees because at this point I'm disowned and I'm hustling between, trying to do a business, get a job and all that, and I'm working. And you can study and work in the United States, but it's different in Nigeria. It's tough. It's not impossible, but it's tough. Right? So it's exam day and they step in, they give me the paper, it's 5 questions, some have A and B, altogether singularly 10 questions, right? And maybe I can answer only 1 or 2 comfortably. And when I say 1 or 2, I mean the fractions. So no whole question. Because I spent the whole semester, trying to sell this, trying to sell that, trying to make ends meet. And then they step in and they say, "If you not pay your school fees, stand up and go out," and they walk us out. And so there's a girl that's begging the guy, saying, "Oh, she will pay this, that." And I'm sitting and I'm thinking, if they let me go back into that hall right now, how many questions can I answer? So I've not paid the school fees, but I also don't even understand what I'm doing in this place. So if this girl's begging walks out, my best case scenario is still a bad case. That was my last day in school. I walked away from that place with tears in my eyes, just saying, "You know what, I'm going to hustle." But I also said to myself that I'm not going to be less than my peers who are in school now. And that's how I moved. Now, real estate for me started because it was easy to enter, which is not a good thing, but turned out for my advantage, right? No standards, no regulation. Anybody who can connect Tunde, to John, who Tunde wants to sell a house to John who wants to buy a house, and get a commission. And that's how I started real estate. And what was I doing there? There was a magazine called Castles. Castles had listings. But what a lot of people didn't know was that at the back of Castles, it had requests. So what that means is that people at the back are looking for properties that are in the front. And that became my first office, Castles. I will go through the listings, then I will go to the requests, and all their phone numbers are there, and I'll match them. I became an agent. So I made my first money doing agency. And over time, I looked at it and I thought, I would have rented a house to somebody or sold a house to somebody. I'll come back in a few months and see the place fully furnished. Very different from how it was when I gave them. Then I said, somebody must have made money here. I will learn how to do interior design. There was a short course, 3 months. I took that course. And then now when I rent you a house, I'll do a 3D model to show you how the house can look. You will say I should clean it up. So that's how I started doing interior design. And then 2004, my now wife, then girlfriend's cousin was moving in. He didn't like the way everything was. He wanted to strip everything apart. And he was he worked in mobile. He was one of those guys, very gadget friendly. He would go on Pinterest. He had done all the interior design work. Really, if I'll be honest. But he needed somebody to execute it and called me. So I took those designs and I went there and I did the renovation. When I was going to do it, what I said to myself was that I didn't want to mess up because I'm trying to marry this girl. Let me not come and get a bad reputation in their family. So I got professionals to do different things, brought them together. Didn't make money there because the professionals actually made what should have been my margin. But I said to myself, I'll learn what they do and I'll never need them again. But that's how my construction finishing business started. And then I became a contractor to one of the biggest developers in Lagos from there. And then I did my own project. So I've come many years through all of this till I saw a problem. What was the problem? I was going to start Construct. I was being a developer, and you could actually start and finish a project and not make money, just not understanding the dynamics. So if you take a loan from the bank, for example, a lot of developers are actually working for the bank. And part of the reason is because it's so informal, there's so little structures that there are leakages in different portions of it where you lose money and you don't know. And so a lot of times when you see projects don't complete, you think the developers are bad people. They are not always bad people. Sometimes they've just not understood how to manage their processes efficiently, right? And so I called a friend of mine at the time who was in KPMG, he was the youngest manager, and I said, I need to build a system that helps me make sure that I am efficient. And in my first 2 years of using that system, I found that I could see where every naira went into on my projects. And that just became a light bulb moment for me, like, every developer needs something like this. So Construct was born out of, once again, progression. I think Construct was an outcome. I knew nothing about marketplaces when I started. I knew nothing about tech, fundraising, zero. It was an outcome of about 16, 17 years of being in an industry, but being very competitive and wanting it to be better and thinking what's the next thing you can do, right, to make it better. And by year 16, I think I had done a lot of what I wanted to do for myself. It was now, what can I build for the industry and make a mark that today, Ayola will call me to speak here because of that mark. It was no longer about money, and I'm really happy that we started, and maybe later I'll talk a bit more about where we are today.
Fun fact, John, Modele used to be my classmate in secondary school. Fun fact. I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that.
Okay.
We're all connected on this call. So, Tunde, tell me your own story. How did you think about Sycamore? You were working in
right.
Or you're working.
Funny enough, I wasn't even in banking, right? It was also, it's quite different. John's story sounds so amazing because of just how he's had a lot of high agency stuff. Mine is quite different. So I was working unrelated industry. I was working in KPMG. So KPMG at the time
is only where the brains go to. John, do you agree?
100%.
It's only where
100%.
How would you not get a job in KPMG?
I wouldn't have qualified, Ayola.
I didn't qualified. In fact, they would have dropped me a long time ago.
But funny enough, as I just said earlier, I always had that my plan of 5 to 10 years employment, learn as much as you can, get contacts, build your network, go and start a business. So I've always had that in mind. So all along, I kept an open mind, right, of what I was going to do. I got a home improvement loan my second year in KPMG, right? It was at the time, I think, like $1 million, and I knew how manual the process was. But it just struck me that, this is actually quite interesting. Because I was a KPMG staff and the bank had a deal with KPMG, they gave me a loan. I think from fast forward down the line, I moved to PwC some years after. Then some of the more fintechs had just started coming back then, also had a similar experience. Then I started a business in 2014. It was a laundry business, right? The ambition of that business was to be the first online laundry delivery service in Nigeria. That was what I wanted to do. So if you go on the website, you can just say, you have 2 shirts, you see the price, 200 naira for one. You see 2 trousers, 500 naira, then you see a total, then you get an invoice on SMS text. Then there was no pay stack. So it was very, very hard to get payments. I didn't have 250k to give InterSwitch. At the time, InterSwitch was charging 250k to embed payments into your website. Anyways, long story short, we needed to grow that business. And I went to the same bankers for a loan, and they said, no, Tunde, the employee, is different from, the name of the business was Pronto. pronto the business. And they're like, no, you have to be in business, you need cash flow, you need collateral, a lot of stuff, right? And it was just impossible to get a loan as a business. And then, fast forward, after like 7 years of working, took a break, went to business school. I met Onyema while we're talking about this problem that we're all employees. It was quite easy to access credit as employees, but it was almost impossible as a business. Then we checked the data. Only 1% of businesses in Nigeria had access to loans. So it was that data that said, this is an opportunity. And I would say the rest is history. Many things have changed since then, because it's not like we had money to start a bank. So we started this marketplace, just something like Construct, right? But then it was just purely lenders. We match them to borrow. So if you have money, bring money. We match it to businesses that can take that money, right? But over time, now we've gone into banking, we've gone into asset management because of customer needs, right? Customer needs have evolved over time, and all the seasons we've also been through the business has had to change from COVID to cashless to the Naira doing up and down. We've had to come out with almost new businesses, revise our business models every time something major changes. And that's how we've ended up with, like 3 different entities now within Sycamore, doing different things. Somebody's doing banking, somebody's doing asset management, and then we have a UK entity where we basically kept servicing a lot of people that were jackpotting at the time, right? So there's actually a Sycamore UK. It's not very popular because it's a niche market of Nigerians in the UK that we're servicing financial services for. But yeah, we're going to also, start marketing that more. But long story short, that is a very, very high level summary of how we are here now.
Tunde, let me ask you a question. When did you realize that building would be this harder than you expected?
I think everybody underestimates how hard it was. How hard it was, right? It's so hard. Every day, there was one day I was doing something and I was so stressed, and I just looked up and I said, "Is every entrepreneur working this hard, or is it just me?" I asked every day. Yesterday, I met the founder of this company. I don't know if you guys have heard of Press One. They give them customer service numbers. And Maiwa, I met him yesterday for the first time. I'm not a company from far. And I'm like, guy, I said, everybody hustling the way, is everybody working hard and hustling the way I'm hustling? And he's like, man, we are. Or we are, as the case may be.
Bro, let me blow your mind. What you should be grateful for is that some people are hustling like that and not making progress like you. But we are all hustling.
Yes, absolutely. I think that, from when we set up the business from Lagos Business School, I started getting a sense of just how hard it was going to be, because before we could even agree on shareholding structure and who would take what percentage of the business, it was much more difficult emotionally, because this was a partnership, right? And as much as we had aligned values and impact, that thing, if we didn't solve it well, the business would have died. The business would have died before it started. The business would have died. And that has killed a lot of businesses, right? We can name some very popular ones here that have died over shareholder and co-founder conflict. So even out the gate, I was like, man, everybody had an idea of, I am bringing this, I therefore want 90%. I'm bringing this, I therefore want whatever. And, the people that actually eventually win are the people that are able to resolve those issues and keep moving, right? So I think I started getting a glimpse of, who sent me income, who sent me comment, who sent me message. I just did PwC, make I collect my, and the salary was very good. I mean, I'm earning very good money. I was a manager in 2017. At the time, the money was quite good, right? And I took a significant pay cut to start Sycamore, which again, is one of the reasons why I always thank my co-founders on here. They were able to see that we're going to have to suffer for a few years for long-term gain, because we all took a drastic, when I say drastic, like 70-80% pay cut to be able to start, Sycamore and just build it organically. So that sacrifice, there are very few people that are willing to make it, and that's why a lot of people can't. it's more difficult for a lot of people to make the jump from successful 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship, because not everybody can withstand that drop in income. And some people, it's not their fault too. If you have bills, you have family you're taking care of. I did have a lot of black tax, in terms of, okay, some people don't like that term, but in terms of I actually had to delay my marriage to start this business, right? Because I knew that I'm not going to go and tell my wife that it's entrepreneurship we're doing, therefore I can't buy food or I can't pay rent, right? So you had to say, okay, let us stabilize a bit. So it's a lot of sacrifice. It's hard, but I mean, it's a different type of hard. Like I always say, it's not like being an employee is easy to. It's also hard. We're all builders. We're just building in different capacities. Let me put it that way.
John, let me ask. I know that
if you don't mind, before you ask me, I just want to appreciate something that Tunde has said very casually. And that's Tunde's style. Tunde is very casual. Do it as if he's not doing anything. I actually like to speak on this kind of platform because, as much as possible, if anything can be helpful to anybody that hears it, I'm happy. I think one thing to pick from Tunde's conversation is that excellence is a principle, right? A lot of people think they can pick and choose where they will be excellent. So when they're doing small things and they don't do it well, and you say, why did you? Is it not just cleaning my room? Is it not just serving food? Is it not just? I really hope that everybody on this call, if you don't take anything else from today, is that excellence is a principle. When you have excellence in your DNA, you can start practicing it from the littlest things that you do. But it will show up in the greatest decisions you will make. I promise you that part of the reason why they were able to go through those difficult conversations and still build, because what will typically happen is that most people, when those difficult conversations around shareholders, what do you call it, equity happen, they'll just say, oh boy, make me leave on my bed, no, make I just go do my thing.
Or they start to do the same thing in 3 places.
Meanwhile, today, I know Maiwa, I know the 2 co-founders, but I know Maiwa a bit more because recently we've been talking, and I know how strong his personality is. I know how strong Tunde's own is, and I can only imagine how strong Onye's own is. Now, for 3 of them to be able to, with those strong personalities, have those conversations, but still remain focused on the objective, that is a level of excellence that we can quickly underestimate, but is not very common.
Come on.
I promise you. So Tunde just said it. He just said it. Go and try it. Come back and tell me how it feels. Not easy at all.
It's not though. I know what I went through trying to even speak to my own co-founder. It's like, I'm technical. What are you bringing to the table? I'm the one that is going to be.
Let's not even go there. If you have to hold one.
I'm the one writing the code. I'm doing sleepless nights. All you are doing is just the marketing.
Yeah, go and market. You need to. These conversations have ruined businesses. They've ruined ideas. They've ruined friendship. They've ruined relationship. John, construction is a relationship-heavy and industry, right? How do you design for trust?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and we made that mistake early on.
I love you already. I love you already, so that you don't come and tell me like it's easy. I like the word.
No. I think I always say that I'm actually a very lucky guy. Some things have happened for me because the way I started Construct is the way most businesses that failed started. And I will say I've just been lucky. Now, what I think is that as far as Africa and Nigeria that I know, I can't say for the rest of the world, it is fintech that introduced us to tech. Today, am I correct?
Yeah.
I think
you're correct. Even till now, the biggest successes we've had are still fintech. So
are still fintechs. Yes. I think it is fintechs that introduced us to technology. At least they became popular. There might be some other ones that we don't really hear about, but the popular ones that most of us saw are fintechs, right? And fintechs are, like Y Combinator will say, product first. Because really, if you think about it, you can't make payments without a product, right? However, what I'm learning and what we started to learn at Construct is that for a pop tech, for a business, a tech business in a core real industry, it is not product first, it is structure first. And so we had to understand that relationships are actually a thing, like you said, and not try to change relationships, but try to see how we can standardize and digitize them. So, for example, right now as we speak, if you hit my landing page of Construct for building materials, you will see buy now. But over the last 2 weeks, we were in a strategy session and I said, we need to change buy now to something like negotiate or bargain or discuss price or, find the most, relatable word for
so that you're getting conversion almost immediately.
Yes, because the guy wants to negotiate. That's how he starts. He never starts with buying. But if you follow fintech, you write buy now because that's how payments work. That's how fintechs work, largely.
E-commerce.
So I think e-commerce, for us, it's don't try to change what exists with technology. Technology is an enabler. It should enable what already happens. And if it doesn't already happen, rest assured there's nothing to enable. You will be building a fantasy that nobody will end up paying for. And that was us for the first 2 years. We were just not making any money. Because we were trying to build something that was in our head, but was not exactly the way it was being experienced in real life.
Tunde, I saw you smiling when you were saying they were building for 2 years. Did you have a similar story?
Well, to be honest, we had a similar story, yes, but not because we didn't make revenue, but I think we realized, I would say faster, that people want the solution, people want a solution to their problem, not the solution that you want to give them by force. What that meant is, when it was taking so long to build the fancy app and the website, we went to town with Google Forms, right? And we started closing deals with Google Forms and a very one simple page website because it was taking so much time to build the web application and the product. And look, these people just want the loan or the investment just wants to earn return. Let us give them that. And then we can, like John said, you then build technology to enable that happen, right? I always say that we built the finance solution before the tech, even if we're fintech. But we were doing a lot of finance already before we then had to figure out that, okay, what is the tech that people are looking for? And look, at the end of the day, like John also alluded to in a very simple manner, it's brick and mortar businesses. I always say that people it's a tough business because this is actually things that are moving on the ground. It's not like you can code your way to success and you buy one app and 10,000 people will download it. I mean, we're talking about roofing sheets. Like a truck has to come and then move from one point to another, right? So it's really, really, really hard work. But again, as we've been saying, at the end of the day, it's really staying power. I guess not just giving up until it starts to make sense. He talked about not making money for 2 years, right? Many people would have closed shop. In fact, I know one of the most popular Nigerian wealthy families. I think that is even their own motto too. I think when they invest in a new business, I think they say they give it like 2 or 3 years. There's a particular timeline they have, and they just say, "Look, this one is not working. We are close shop. We're not waiting. we're not doing it again, right?" So the fact that John and team could sort of wait out to fix it, it's also a big nod that I think it deserves more credit for.
John, let me ask you this. I know your sector is one of the hardest sector, right? Tunde, not to discredit the sector where you are, but John, construction has a whole lot of headache, right? And you spoke about structure. You spoke about speaking to your friend at KPMG. What if I didn't have any of this? What if I didn't even know that structure was? Because a lot of people think it's the operation. A lot of people think it's just, the clientele. A lot of people think it's the customer. As long as I get the customer, that's the facade in your industry, right? A lot of people just think, as long as I have this customer, as long as customers are patronizing us, we're making our own little, 2 naira, 3 naira, yeah. We're in business. How are you able to just sit down and say, you know what? Structure is what I need. Scale is the next thing for us. Technology needs to come into play. How are you able to? Did you get into technology because you also wanted to go and raise funds? Because of course everybody was adding tech to it.
I didn't even know there was VC.
You didn't even know there was VC.
I didn't even know there was anything like VC when I started Construct.
Interesting.
It was when I had almost finished my own savings that somebody said, let me introduce you to some angel investors. And my first angel investor was my last customer in the business that I moved from in my development business. He didn't even understand VC. He just said, this guy, you're an excellent guy. If you're doing something, I'll put money behind it. And he put money behind it. That's how we started. Right? Well, yeah, you're right. Part of the reason, and like you said, no shade to any other industry, but part of the reason why construction is tough the way it is because it's very complex and it has so many moving parts. So you deal with building materials, you deal with planning approvals. In building materials alone, there are like 30, 40 that you need for one project. So you can imagine how many conversations, how many things you need to know and to do that. Then there's a lot of skill sets required. There's electrical, there's mechanical, there's the architect, there's the builder, the engineer. Like, bro, it is complex. The third part is that most of these people are not tech savvy. And one of the things that you will hear very often is that it's also a very ego-driven industry.
Oh, wow.
So that's where people need to like to measure their egos. I've done this for 10 years. I've done this for 20 years. Who are you to tell me this? The fact that you are trying to bring a solution can make you an enemy because they see your solution as you saying that what they've done for 20 years is rubbish. So, bro, yes, it's crazy tough to be in this industry. Now, the thing I would say about that is that I also think that what is tough is an opportunity because it means the guy that solves it becomes a superhero, right? But to answer your question about structure, I'll go back to one thing I said that I think that I've always been a bit lucky to. You will not believe what I'm about to tell you, but I think that not finishing school is the luck that I needed for this. Because what happened is that part of me knew that I missed something, right? So I always tried to accessorize myself with people because I felt a sense of something missing, and that's where structure came from. So it's like knowing that you have one leg, so you get a chair that you hop into. That's your structure. You wake up in the morning, you get into your chair, you move like this, you move like that. That's what structure is. Knowing that I didn't know finance, so when I saw a Modele who is a CFA, I can respect it and bring her in and say, can you help us structure our finances? Because I don't want to lose control, but I don't want to mess it up. So let's put a structure. So I feel like a lot of the things that were supposed to be my disadvantage are what made me, now want to do almost overcompensate, right? So I tell people that even before I started my startup, my last business that was a traditional business, my sister who worked in KPMG, I made her a co-signatory, and we agreed that for certain volumes of money, it was both to sign. She wasn't working in the business. But I realized, and I knew quite early, that if you left something to somebody who doesn't have adequate knowledge, he will mess it up. So I always beat myself with people. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is to overestimate themselves. I like to say discipline is great, structure is better. Because discipline relies on you, and on your weekday, you will fall. But when I wanted to stop drinking Coke, discipline is great, structure is better. There's no Coke in my house. Structure is that we don't put Coke in the fridge. And I like to simplify things because, sometimes business people, when we're talking to other people, we use our terms. Some people will not get it. I always bring it to what you can relate to. Like, structure is the process that must happen for any outcome in your business. Right? And so I think for me, I was just lucky to have that sense of inadequacy that forced me to try to bring in other people who I thought had the parts that I didn't have, right? And that's what now, helped me understand and love structure. Now, let me tell you, our lead investors, CRE Ventures, they will tell you that one of the major reasons they invested in Construct, and right now they're giving us close to $2 million. One of the major reasons they invested in Construct was the sense of structure. So even when we hadn't started making as much revenues as some counterparts businesses, they saw that this kind of structure, you can build something on it. So let's help them build the strategy. And as soon as they came in, I wish Moduli was here. Maybe almost 1,000% the revenues, we're making before they came. Crazy, right? So for me, structure was inadequacy, but I feel like it doesn't mean people should go and drop out of school so that they feel inadequate. No, I feel like it is just understanding that, and whoever you hire will be human and can make mistakes. So create SOPs so that those human beings can have what to follow. Stick to it yourself so that you can model what it looks like to follow structure, and understand that if you ever need external players in your business, like investors, those are the things they buy. I ask people, do you ever understand what an acquisition is? Why do companies buy companies? Why not just go and do it yourself? They are buying the structures, the processes,
the infrastructure.
That's what they're buying. So it's a very key thing.
All right, I have just two more questions because I know you guys are busy men. I have just two more questions and I open the floor. My first question would be that what is that misunderstanding that the outside world misses around your founder's journey generally? What's that one thing that people miss around or misunderstand around the founder's journey in Africa?
I think the first thing for me is that. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I want to hear it yet because it's very important. I've seen today's eyes in the sky. So
I think the first thing is that it looks glamorous. So people think that being a founder is glamorous.
It's a good story. It's a good title.
And so when they come, a lot of the times the founders we celebrate, have already got some success. So they now have some paraphernalia for success, like good cars. Or for example, if you're looking at Onamen these days, who is always like posting, S-Class picking him from the tarmac, flying in a private jet. He's an example of an entrepreneur, of a founder. So some people think that that's where he started.
Sure.
You understand? Unfortunately, most times you don't see the founders in the trenches because nobody invites them to podcasts. They don't have a camera following them. You understand? They are still in the trenches. So one of the biggest misconceptions is that it is fun. Only people like you who have seen that gap have said, come, let's talk about the bad stories. So for me, that's one of the biggest misconceptions, that it is fun. And so a lot of people don't prepare for it. And that's why I said, Tunde, we need to flog Tunde. Tunde will just be saying things as if they're easy. The things that he said today. Tunde has dropped some very strong nuggets that, because he's not really dramatic like me, you might not hear them. Tunde said he delayed his marriage.
Because he no one suffer that person picking.
Because he knew what he was going to enter.
Yeah.
He couldn't tell that story.
So a
lot of people don't know what. Yes. A lot of people don't know that entrepreneurship means that there will be no food on the table. My first auditor in Construct, We were not making money. I was doing audits. That's how structured I was. My first auditor in Construct came. He said, sir, he noticed that there are some names that were collecting 1.5 million. Then it was big money monthly. What is that? For him to say what is that is that he couldn't believe anybody was being paid 1.5 million because me, I was earning 200K. Unfortunately for me, I don't already married, so there was no going back. I had already made a lot of money in my first business. My family had already tasted a certain level of lifestyle. I had to take that pay cut in between and go back to 200K a month. Luckily, I had a wife who was able to absorb that and cover me with her own business. So I say, that's why I always say there's some luck too, because there's some wives you have, they're not bad, but you can't have, that one cannot happen. It's just not possible. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that misconception that entrepreneurship starts out rosy is one that we must douse. We must go back to the days where we show people that there is honor and dignity in building, right?
Starting small.
And that you will now enjoy it. So it's not like come and build and suffer all your life. But build well, do it right, so that you can actually roll like Elumelu, which is not a bad thing, on a roll like that. But I know that it won't come from day one, right? And I'm just sort of ready to grind. Then just to localize it to technology, I think the biggest conception in technology, it has to be product first. And I think that's one message that anybody who is building like a B2B marketplace or anything that is not a payment platform, right? And I mean, Tunde alluded to that. I said fintech, but really, it's really payments. Payments actually largely require some technology, whether it's hardware or software. But anything that is not that, if I start Construct again today, from day one, I'll hire a product person, but I will not hire one engineer for the first year. One, I will not write any code. The only reason why I'll hire the product person early is because I need him to understand the customer journey beside me while we're moving and start putting it into screens, into prototypes and all that. Just start getting the logic so that by the time we're ready to start building, we can build fast. But I will not hire an engineer from day one. If we're building anything that is not payments, that requires interactions with other businesses, the first thing is to understand the problem, understand the flow of, in fact, solve it manually. Why say we say build things that don't scale? So do things that don't scale first. Then when you understand the process end to end, you're now looking for how to put it on a platform, to scale. So those are the two biggest misconceptions I see. One in general business, which is that entrepreneurship is rosy. Some people will say things like, I can't work for anybody. So because I can't work for anybody, you're already saying that you're a bit lazy. You're already saying you're a bit lazy. Then you now think that you will be a good business person. Wait till you have to wake up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. and do all the crazy things that we've had to do that you don't want to do for somebody else, but you will have to do for yourself. And I tell my children these days, I say, listen, you have to self-regulate, because the difference between a child and an adult is that as a child, I will come and tell you, read your books. I will come and tell you this. I'll come and advise you to do that. When you become an adult, if you like, don't do it. Nobody will ask you. End of the year, you can't pay your rent. You can't buy car. You can't buy food. You can't... No, as an entrepreneur, nobody needs to tell you anything. When you step outside, life will show you, right? So just being able to understand that there will be not so rosy times, especially if you were not born with a silver spoon, and be ready to go through, that process. Those are some of the things I think.
Tunde? Thanks, John. Tunde?
Yeah. I mean, John pretty much said it all. I think that, interestingly, one of the first words that came to my mind was glamour, even before he spoke. So when he said glamorous, I just laughed because, a lot of people tend to see the glamour without seeing the work and the number of years too. We're talking about Tunde. Tunde is over 69, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a journey of over 40 years. This is somebody that's been working. So I think it's very presumptuous for you to think that you want to be driving the kind of car that somebody that has been grinding for over 40 years is doing, right? So that time appreciation too, I think that we don't put it a lot into context enough, in my opinion. I think something else too that is easy to miss is also what I always call personal context. So they are always 62 exactly. Thanks for that. I don't know what people's source of cash and income, and it's easy to think that the one that is being projected is number one, right? I mean, I'll give an instance. So there is a particular startup that raised like $4 million with just a website. A lot of people were like, "Oh, how?" It was later that we found out that the founder was a governor's son or something like that, right? Meanwhile, you from the streets or with your own, managing your life, you want to be comparing yourself to that kind of person, right? So I don't want to just call it comparison, but sometimes somebody will be selling cows on the side, but they'll have a tech startup that everybody knows, and it's the cow business that is funding the tech startup, but you don't know. It is not VC, it is not transactions. So there's usually a lot of times there's usually a cash cow that some people might not know about. Cash cow can be a side hustle, it might be family, it might be generational wealth. So all our personal, it's not good for you to just look at somebody on face value and say, no, John is doing Construct. Construct is making money, therefore I'll go and do Construct. So you don't know. Maybe John sold 2 houses in Banana Island, and it's the agency fees that is funding Construct, right? You think it's only the platform, right? So there's a lot of personal context that is missing. And last but not least, and I want to just reiterate and add to it a bit. There's mentioned luck 2 times now. There's luck, but I think that we get good luck when we try to create it, right? And one of the things that John does very well without even knowing is he's very open to learning. I think he's one of the founders that I know in this ecosystem that is very, very open to learning. John will always pick your brain. If he sees you, he will call to ask for opinion, and in the course of learning and moving, you are getting lucky because you are talking to people, right? It's hard to get lucky if you are staying at home. Is the salesman that talks to 100 people like Miss Dangote as one of them, and you say this person is lucky. No, this person is not lucky because they made Dangote. He's lucky because he spoke to 100 people. John is lucky because John is always learning. He's always asking people questions.
He's always outside.
John don't harass everybody for this ecosystem. Baba, how you do this thing? I want to do this thing. How are you doing it? And then he goes to implement, right? So I think he gets lucky because he takes action and is always looking to learn. So I think one of the things that even I've learned on this journey is the faster you can learn and willing to change, the more successful you can be, right? Plenty of the ideas that I had when we started, I threw them away first few. I think people know that my people that I work with, they know that about me. There's no need for us to be emotionally attached or sentimental about something that is not working. I say, Baba, and I'll tell my team, they're always surprised. I say, man, guys, I messed up. This was my fault. Okay, what do we do now? We've learned our lesson. We don't mess up. Oh yeah, who are we going to call? Who do we need to? Something even happened just this morning, and I just told my guys, I say, look, some other fintechs have figured out this problem. Who do we need to talk to? We obviously are not getting it right, So I think there's luck, but luck meets you in point of action, and maybe don't compare yourself to everybody else because there's a story behind the story that you don't know, right? So it's
Tunde and John.
Yeah.
When you used to see, before you raised the money, when you used to see the news, were you ever pressured? As in, make we no lie. Were you ever pressured?
100%.
Were you like,
this guy don't raise? I know good day pressured.
Yeah, we still the pressure till now. When Tunde chop, which one will you chop recently?
Casador.
Bro, I didn't sleep that night. I go to harass Amanda. I say, how did I not know?
1.5B last year. Or which one?
Oh, that one pressure me.
Even me, John, I'm like, how did Tunde know about this?
How did he know? I was so angry. So I was angry.
Yeah.
That one pressured me. I think that pressure is not even a bad thing. It's what you do with it.
With the pressure.
So some people will now take that pressure and say, okay, for example, I don't know if Tunde bought a car, but just imagine if Tunde had a car. Then you now take the pressure, then go and start to try to buy that car. Instead of taking the pressure to go and learn what Tunde knows. He'll tell you that why he can say that I learn is because I call him, and like he said, I'm not shy to learn. No, I can learn from a dog, anything. So this is me that will become better, will move forward. So yeah, that pressure is real. Just what do you do with that pressure? Do you translate it into trying to show things that you are not? Or do you translate it into trying to be the person that you can be? Yeah.
I think that pressure usually makes some founders enter a mental state. Nobody talks about mental health. John, how are you able to balance mental health? And then I'll just open the question to other people. I was thinking Tunde will be back before you finish. Okay, Tunde is back. But how do you balance your mental health? Tunde, you've now answered the question of pressure.
No, pressure deal. I mean, me that I have a digital bank now. No be digital bank where we get where money point they raise $200 million, where money has raised $50 million, and you are supposed to compete with these guys that are raising more than 1,000 times, your entire balance sheet, right? So there's always pressure, but I think that John has already said it all. Is what you do with the pressure. And I always say something. One of the things I used to console myself, even if some is partly bobo, but it's partly true. I always say it's more about being resourceful than having resources. No, but it's true, guys. Look, if I tell you how much we've raised in equity, we've raised very, very small equity compared to what we've done, right? And I look at it and I always thank God for one. But the truth is, since we started this business, many credit-led fintechs have died. Many, and they all raised more than us. All of them, the prominent ones that have died. One particular one has raised more than 30 times the money we've ever raised, and they closed shop last year. Right? So, like I would always say, look, I think we have a responsibility to work with what we have, and then we have to show how creative we are in using what we have, and let's bring it on. Like that whole competitive spirit of an entrepreneur. It's okay. You have 100, I have one. Let's go outside now. We'll drag it out, right? So for me, it's like ginger to be creative and to come up with very, very creative ways of still competing in that market, despite the $100 billion anybody has raised. That's
the $1 billion question now. How do you balance your mental health, the founder mental health? Nobody talks about this thing. We do this every time on our calls, and I ask this question. How do you balance your mental health? It's crazy. You wake up 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., you're thinking every day. Your system, your tabs never close.
They never close, though.
So how do you balance it? How do you strike that work-life balance? Because your employees are saying, boss, I can't come to work today because of work-life balance. My mental health is affected. But you, the founder, what's happening?
What's happening with your mental health? Yeah.
It's crazy because I don't mind. It's crazy because I read, one of my employees, we have this structure where if you're going to be out of office, you report in a certain format. And I read somebody write one yesterday, and I just thought, now only me not get family. Like, I'll just be saying, I have a family emergency. And to be honest, it came out of my mouth like, now only me not get family. Now, the reality is that I think once again I'm lucky because I had a mentor before I started Construct. He used to talk to me a lot about his experiences and had told me about like a business school, a Harvard experience he had when he taught them that as entrepreneurs, the higher you go, you need outlets, right? So you need things that help you declutter your mind, I don't know if outlets is understanding, if I need to explain that more.
Let me just say that one of the reasons why you are successful again is the kind of mentors you have. Where I won't find Harvard mentor, I beg.
Yeah, well, okay. Let me.
I've been
Let just
lucky.
finish.
So then maybe you already have your own president of the world. Where you now they see this mentor? Because founders are asking this question.
You know, apart from being lucky, I also was saying to my wife the other day that we're like 16 of us that were close to that guy, worked for him or worked with him. It wasn't really a paid job, but he's one of us that really took from him. So it's also, sometimes when people say they're looking for mentors, it's also what are you willing to give? What are you willing to be? Do you understand? There's something that I was to that guy that made him always keep me next to him. But that's a separate question. Let me not let me not digress. I think the real question you asked around mental health is that he taught me that you need outlets. And so early on, I started introducing outlets. I would see the meme where on Friday some people would show something and say slams laptop, and I'll laugh. My laptop can never slam. Not Sunday, not holiday. It can. However, because I know that, and the spirit of excellence makes you also figure out what you need to do for everything, understand, I have my outlets. Unfortunately, one of my outlets is not healthy. But the reality is that people need to find outlets. Okay. So, for example, one of my outlets is that I get a massage. My last birthday, my wife bought me a massage bed. She has understood that sometimes I can go 48 hours no sleep. That 1 hour when I get a massage, I will snore, but I will wake up refreshed and I need to go again. I need to go. There's like I have to do it for what I've set my life to be. I have to do the work. In the past 3 weeks, I've been in 4 countries negotiating deals that when they happen, it will look like luck, but positioning myself for those deals, right? And what I do is I know my outlets. One of my outlets is taking long walks, preferably with my wife when our timing aligns, sometimes by myself, right? One of my outlets is massages. One other outlet is just sitting with people who mindless conversation, music, dancing. So it's no longer just like fun. It's actually like taking a pill. You know, because it's madness. Being a founder is madness. But we want it. Or at least we want the outcome of it. So we kind of have to go through it.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. So just deliberately creating your outlets is, what I see. And then the other thing that I think is very important, I was teaching my son this the other day. I said to him, I have a whole ocean. Like, think of the biggest ocean you know. Expanse of water. Not a bucket, not a cup, not a drum. Ocean of forgiveness for myself. Bro, if I kill somebody today, God forbid, which is one of like the most principal crimes somebody can commit, in 5 minutes, I will forgive myself. So I don't carry any extra baggage of guilt, doubt. I understand that entrepreneurship is trying things out. They don't work, you try again. Tunde alluded to it, when he talked about, trying things, moving on. You know what? We move on. I wrote it, I called it move forward ability. Like the ability to forget that you made a mistake because you are so focused on the next thing that you need to do. It's very gray because some people turn it to lack of accountability, which is different.
Different.
So it's great. Different. And I say to people that this is why everybody will not be great. It's not a curse. There will always be poor people. Because those gray lines that you need to understand to be great, people like white or black. Don't take responsibility or take too much responsibility that you put yourself down. Then you depress yourself with the fact that you made a mistake. Then you can't try again because you spoke yesterday and you didn't speak well. So tomorrow they invite you for something to speak. You say you will not go. It's not one or the other. I forgive myself quickly When I'm done with this podcast, when I'm doing anything I'm doing, my mind will be playing everything I said. And I will remember some things I must have said that I don't like. I will also remember some things that I must have said that I like. I'll quickly address them in my head. I'll quickly say, well, you're a great guy. You. Next time you'll say it better.
I like that. I like that.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
You know, but a lot of people dwell on one side or the other. Instead that they say, oh God, you now focus on everything bad that they said. How could I have said this? How could I have this? Then they do it so
Especially on investors call. Especially when the investor will come back and tell you no. You're like, oh shit, maybe it's my presentation. I could have done this. I could have done that. You know. How many times were you guys rejected before you made money? Today you have not answered my mental health question, no. But John.
No, I'm coming to it now. I enjoy John.
John, a big boss. I put Mr. John.
To be honest,
somebody went to my LinkedIn question statement. I said, so you can write Mr. John, but you cannot write Mr. Tunde. I'm like,
no,
and you don't know that Mr. John is not of knowledge.
That's crazy. Like familiarity now. You and Tunde went to school together, so you can't call him Mr. Tunde.
No, my balance sheet, they read waiting Tunde balance sheet, they read that. Come on.
I went to a pastor's church recently, and he's my guy. So I was calling him his name. His congregation was shouting that I should add pastor, I should add apostle. I said, people don't know that. My guy. I understand exactly what I'm saying. But yeah, I think for me, I got a lot of rejections, but I'll also say I was a bit lucky again because I have a very high conversion rate for fundraising. And when they say Uber spoke to 99 people and got the 100th one, I've raised over $3 million today, and I haven't spoken to 99 people yet. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I have a very high conversion rate. And I realized why. By the way, that can only work in pre-seed to seed or Series A. At some point, what I'm about to say will not work. So depending on where you are, take it with a pinch of salt. I realized early that a lot of times we speak our language to people instead of speaking their language. Yeah, so the first years of trying to get a visa, I was applying and I was getting rejected. And one time they said I should talk to one of our guys that he does visa. So when I went to meet him, he said the reason why you keep getting rejected is because you're writing like an applicant. You're not writing like the person who is reading your application. He said that he would do my own and show me, and I got the visa. The same guy, the same credentials, the same everything. I think that stuck to me very early. So with investors in any stage, I ask myself, what do they want to hear? One of the things angel investors want to know is that you're not a spendthrift and they're not giving you their money to spend money anyhow. That will not be written on your pitch deck. So you can have a fancy pitch deck, but you showed up with a Rolex, showed up looking dapper, your perfume is more expensive than their own, and many things like that. Rest assured, you're not getting the money from angels. Because the first thing that an angel in Africa wants to know that he is not depriving himself of his money and luxuries he can get from it to enable you get those luxuries. Second thing he wants to know is that thing of structure, which is still sort of tied to the first one. So I raised money rather easily because I understood those things and I wove them into conversation. So I tell people that if you start pitching when they say pitch, you're already late. You should start pitching from when you walked in the door, how you comported yourself, what you did, when you were making chit chats, what stories you told. I told the stories of earning 200K. I knew people heard it, right? And I knew that I made them know, okay, this guy knows how to cut down too. For the advancement of the business. So a lot of your early checks will come from trust. And so your conversations, your lifestyle, your behavior should show trust. When I started my startup, I sold my Land Cruiser, I bought a Corolla. Because I got that Land Cruiser with my money. But if I show up to raise money, you would think it's your startup money that bought it. Now I can't say, well, I won't bend myself for anybody. This is who I am. No. I understand that I'm going to start raising money. And the people would think that I used their money to buy Land Cruiser. So I sold it, bought Corolla. This is the new this is the level, right? Just to show that I understood. So that's kind of like how I solved that problem of fundraising. And I feel like it's something that people can adopt. You know, I had maybe like a maybe 45-50% conversion rate in terms of like talking to investors. So if I spoke to 4, or if I spoke to 5, I'll convert 3. You know, which I don't think is a standard record.
Tunde, mental health, and then touch on what John has talked about.
Yeah. I think So first thing is, I started my career in consulting. We used to work around the clock. So the first 5 years of my career, I'll just be honest, there was nothing like mental health. You will be giving, it existed as a concept, but it wasn't popular phrase as to what it is now. So somebody will give you something to do by 9 p.m. and they expect it by 8 a.m. It means they are not sleeping that day. And nobody's going to tell you that don't sleep. But you, Seth, as they are giving you by 9 p.m., you know what it is, right? So I would say that, again, my sort of come up was already like crazy work ethic, and you can't tell your manager that you have mental health. That's why you didn't stay up overnight to do this work. Now, am I saying there's no mental health? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I sometimes worry that, many of us have over-romanticized it now. And, this thing about law of attraction is true. You're thinking about something, you're saying it so much, and then you start to then attract it negatively. Because the truth is, John also alluded to it. You can't, if I say this one, I will say I'm dropping another gem, but it's the truth. You can't,
drop it, we need it.
You can't, I always say something, right? You cannot expect extraordinary results and not put extraordinary efforts. It is not possible. Somebody is working 8 hours a day. The person is getting a certain result, but you want to get more than that person, but you want to work less. There's a place of working smart though, and we can debate that. But generally speaking, you have to do more. There's no shortcut. You have to do the work, right? So I sometimes worry that we sometimes attract the negative parts of these things by thinking about it too much. Right? We're all young. I had many people we joined. Some of you know them. At your bank colleague. A few of us that started KPMG together, right? And it was just like, you have to get this thing done. We played. We still had relaxation time. I think that is like one concept, which is maybe we shouldn't think about it too much in terms of it affecting us, because the work is the work, and it has to be done, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is on mental health, also around your outlet can also be structured into the way you plan your life. So how do I mean? Luckily, again, this is one of the benefits of also working. So I always encourage people, not compulsory, it's nuanced, but I used to work for Taiwo Idele. Taiwo Idele is now popular tax reform guy. But he was my boss in PwC, and he said something one day. He said, what do you do in your spare time? And it was like, he struggled to answer the question, and the answer really made a shift in my mind. He said that he doesn't have spare time because he schedules enjoyments too. So, you understand? Yes.
John, can you see Tunde again?
Don't worry, I've accepted Tunde like that.
This is something I learned from a master, right? But back to we'll talk about mentors too. So he said something. He said, look, people think that, okay, so weekend you should be free now. But he said, no, weekend I am not free because I plan to spend 2-3 hours with my family, relax. So the fact that it's in my calendar doesn't mean that it's work. It is enjoyment that it is. I'm going to spend 4 hours with my wife, but it's in my calendar. So if you try to reach me at that time, I'm not going to respond to you because I'm enjoying myself, but I am relaxed. So it's part of my right. And that strategy really helps me, right? Because now, like the way I plan outings with my wife and we have outings with the kids, we plan, right? So if I have worked a certain level, I am not necessarily free by 7 to 8. It's not because I'm busy, it's because I'm watching a movie with my wife, but it's in my calendar, right? But that is the activity, and that helps to distress. So if the schedule and the plan includes play or the outlet, as you know, I like the word John used, outlet, or the relaxation, at least for me, it helps, right? It helps. So I think scheduling play as part of my life helps me to balance out my mental health, right? That's one. And then last but not least, and I say this everywhere, you see it on my profile on Twitter, on Facebook, everywhere. I'm very big on optimism and positivity. I always believe that things can get better, right? I always think I really love the way John put it, and I've noted it down, to forgive yourself more. And I struggle with that a bit because I like to take responsibility, right? Like kind of person that I say, look, I don't fuck up, that kind of thing. But one of the things that also helps me is I'm very forward looking in terms of being positive and being optimistic. And I always encourage people, and that's why I don't like hearing things like, I know people might say, yeah, like Nigeria will happen to you, this country is finished, this one, that one. I hate despair. I really don't like it. I don't like negative energy people around me. I don't like downing. I don't like complaining too much. It was one of the, if there's anything that I did enjoy about paid employment, that was one of it. People used to complain so much about their pay. They complain so much about their boss. In my mind, I didn't say it, but I kept thinking about it. I said, why don't you just leave? Why don't you leave? Why, if it's so bad, why complain all the time? I knew I was not going to be in paid employment, but I gave my work 1000%, even if I knew I was going to leave. In fact, the way I was working, when I resigned, a lot of people were surprised. They're like, Tunde, you were doing this thing like your father's business. You were working late hours, you were carrying it on your head, you were writing this, you were doing this, you were doing that. And I resigned. And I'm like, okay, yes, but some of the complainers are still there. I didn't complain like them, but they didn't do anything about it.
They didn't take an action.
They didn't do anything. So I think if you allow a lot of the negative energy in the environment get to you, it has a way of negatively impacting your attitude and even your mental health. So if you complain all the time and you say your mental health, I'm like, okay, so whose fault is it? You need to, and also you have to take responsibility. Just talk about looking inwards. Sort of, you're sort of attracting it to yourself. You complain all the time. You keep friends that only complain. You're not talking about the way forward. You're not talking about the solution. You're not talking about, how we can get better, and it's just draining, right? So I think for me, I've been lucky again to have gone through the background I had where mental health wasn't the first thing we think of when we're going through challenges. The second thing is scheduling play just as much as work. And then third thing is being optimistic, as much as being positive, optimistic, and surrounding myself with, positive people. And I talk to people like you, I like talking to people like John. You're talking to John. You're always pumped if you're talking to somebody like John, right? It's like, but how are we solving this?
John's energy is on another level.
Baba, look, it's what's the way forward. It's not, you can't be crying. I mean, there's a time to cry, but it can't be perpetually. It can't, you cry, clean it, we deal with it, we learn the lessons, and we move on, right? So I think that helps a lot.
So you guys want to be male founders, males don't cry, founder. You guys
no. I believe in no. Funny enough, is I believe in feeling bad or feeling sad to the extent that you need to, right? I've stolen something from John today. Is move forward ability, right?
That's the new English in my dictionary.
That's the new English, yeah. And it's very important because I think that you should cry for I don't want to put a cap because we're all different. But you should cry for a limit. You should cry to the extent that you can pick yourself back up, right? And you shouldn't stay there again perpetually because it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't. There's something I'm trying to learn now. If I'm in a hurry, I notice that I check my watch a lot, but I've now told myself that checking the watch 100 times doesn't make time go fast.
It does make it fast.
You're wasting time. You're actually wasting time checking the time, right? So sometimes I'm in a hurry. I go check time. I'll come back again. I'll check time. I'm like, Tunde, what are you doing? this time that you're using to check time, you are supposed to be
So you have to keep moving, man.
forward, right? So yeah, I think we should cry. I think we should be sad. But I think as much as possible,
Pick
you
yourself.
want to get up or out of it as soon as it's feasible. But I won't put a time limit because we're all different and we all have different ways of processing sadness and grief. Grieve as much as you need to, but just don't make it perpetual.
All right, so let me just open the lines to the audience. Anyone who has questions can just raise their hands. I'm going to just take 3 questions because this gentleman, I can see that John is in the mood, on the move already. So let's just take 2 questions.
It's like it's selling building materials.
Yeah, but Tunde, to be honest, I'm really happy that I did this with you, man. And I learned a lot from just listening to you as well.
John, funny enough, when everyone was speaking to me, okay, question, okay. Sorry, just before you go with the question, when she was speaking to me, she was like, John is not going to be on this call for 2 hours or 3 hours. I can bet you with you, John. There has never been a time that we have sessions I just told her I want to have 30 minutes. Don't worry, we'll be done. I know that when the conversation starts, you're informed that you're passionate to express whenever you want to express. We are going to be here. The highest we've done is 2 hours. That's the shortest we've done. 2 hours.
Wow.
It's always.
Yeah, no, but this is a good conversation now. Like,
yes, once the conversation is good.
It's not what the media is going to ask you. The media is going to ask you, Mr. Tunde, how much money did you get? You know, they don't want to point it positively and the rest of it. Let's get the first question. I see your hands up. Is that Emmanuel? Yeah, Emmanuel. But there was a lady that spoke. I can't see your hands up. But Emmanuel, please, you can go. Emmanuel, you can just unmute yourself and speak.
It's a privilege to be in this space. I must say it has been quite inspiring. Thanks, Coach. I have about 3 questions, but first I also want to just add 2 things. First is a particular book that helps founders, navigate even properly, understanding it reiterates that product first thing that Mr. John spoke about. The book is Ready, Fire, Aim.
Sorry, Emmanuel, your line is not so clear. Your line is not so clear, Emmanuel.
Michael Masterson.
Sorry, Emmanuel, your line wasn't clear. Can you come again? Your line wasn't clear.
All right, I can come again. So I said, good morning, everyone. It has been quite inspiring being on this call. And I have about 3 questions, and I just have 2 short nugget points to just have to what I've said. First is a book that I think that founders would find really good to read. First is the Ready, Fire, Aim. It's a book written by Michael Masterson. It reiterates that factor where Mr. John spoke about the product first. It just gives you different levels of business and what you should do at different points, what you should check out before doing some certain things. Then let me just move to my question straight up. The first thing is, how has being in the community, what's the role of community? How has it helped you in business, when it comes to having the right information, understanding where to the right audience, the right investors, where to meet them? What has the role of what has been the effect of community in that? Then if there are other myths, because I've been able to put down some of the myths you've spoken about, some of the myths, looks glamorous and so if there are other myths that are involved in this business, then lastly, what do you do when bringing a solution makes you feel like an enemy? Has that been that situation? What did you do?
John, you are enemies to the guys in construction. John, do you want to go first?
Enemies, it comes back to sort of self-reflection. A lot of times we look outward when there's a problem. So we say, these guys are not even happy that I'm bringing them a solution. You should always ask yourself, the question I ask myself is, how can I communicate in a way that they don't see me as a threat. I'll give you a quick example. We started becoming a trust layer for financing institutions and finance real estate projects. And one of our first partners is a mortgage bank, right? AG Mortgage Bank. And we signed these contracts, say Q3, Q4 last year. There was a lot of pushback from the developers because one of the things it's simply saying is that they will no longer give them money. They will now give them the building materials they need. Because if you think about it, 70% of the money is going to building materials anyway. So one of the ways to avoid diversion and make sure that quality is right, instead is to partner with a construct and provide the materials to site for the developers instead of giving them the money which they can now divert and do something else with. But it got a lot of pushback. So what did we do? We arranged we called it like a meet and greet, and we brought these guys into the room, and we now came to communicate construct differently. In their case, part of the reason why a lot of real estate projects don't get financed is because there's lack of trust. Tunde will call real estate a risky asset class. Tunde?
Well, yes, to some extent. It depends on the people. Yes, but yeah.
Yes, and except where there is, that trust is bridged by a long-standing relationship, which you can't have with everybody. That relationship can't scale.
Never.
And you have 2,000 relationships, So we had to get them to the point where we made them understand that we're helping you earn credibility by putting a process that makes what you are doing predictable, so that a financial institution will be happy to fund it. Not because they know you or trust you, which they can't know you or trust you all the time, right? But because they trust the process and they trust the layers of governance that are in that process and the outcome. Now, as soon as we change the framing to say to developers that we are getting you to a point where you can now access money, you need to see how the antagonism is changing. Now they are coming to you. But typically, what a person who builds a solution and is getting sort of like enmity from the people he's trying to solve their problem will do is blame them and say they are stupid, they can't even see this, they can't even see that, you're even trying to help them, they're not even. Look inwards. How do you reframe? That guy that is sort of becoming an enemy to you is because he's seeing you as one. So how do you alleviate his fear that you're about to take away something from him? I think that's the very important thing that you need to do when you have, when it seems like your customers don't see your value. It just means they don't see it. And you have to do a better job at communicating it in a way that they'll see it. All that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a similar way that I also advocate that we see regulators, right? Which is to be more of a partnership than a combative relationship, right? Is Lagos State is coming for this, it's coming, but you have to, at the end of the day, you can't work without Lagos State, right? Especially if you're in somewhere like construction. So it's to look for points of commonality and framing it correctly for the right thing. I think your first question was about community. I'll just take that. Community is, I think, one of the biggest assets anybody can have. John and I belong to at least 2 different communities where we bonded and stuff. And the community is also
we all belong to the same community. Let me just even drop it here.
Do you understand? So it's even what do you call it? I think also we define community too narrowly. I'm thinking of like maybe Koi Club. The fact that I went to school with somebody, that's a community, that's a right? Community, your church members your church is a community. John, I'm happy to. Every your neighborhood is a community physically safe. So I think sometimes we define it too narrowly, but honestly, one of the biggest things that has helped me as an individual and Sycamore is being a member of all those communities. And I would say that despite not even being the most
active,
how do I put it? I'm not like, it's not like I talk, or a lot of people think because I write a lot, I'm this guy that is very, like talkative, or I like to just one inspiring motivational speaker every time. And no, not really. Like, I just have had benefits of trust from a lot of communities I've been part of, right? And it has grown, it has compounded over time into that. And because we mentioned this point of mentorship, there are mentors in your community already. They might not be popular, they might not have gone to Harvard or whatever big place, but
no shit.
no, I mean, no. So John didn't wake up. The thing is that John didn't even wake up and have a Harvard
guy. Yeah,
zero. It takes time. Baba has been in this thing for 23 years, right? It's not the one that you have that mentor. But there are mentors today that a lot of people are overlooking because you're not Tunelu Melu, or you're not Ayula, or you're not John, or you're not somebody on TV, right? They are guys with wisdom, your ex-lecturers, your elders in church, your neighbor that is more experienced. There is a mentor much more experienced around you now.
It couldn't be your friend.
It could be your friend. No,
your friend. Tunde is one of my mentors.
See, some of your mentors are even younger than you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what people don't see. That's what people don't see most times.
Me, I humble myself. When we started building tech, I had to go and be learning from many younger friends. I don't know this thing. I'm not an engineer. Come and teach me this thing, right? I looked up to them. I asked them questions. Sit you down. Tell me about this product. Tell me about what language are we using. I mean, I had to go and learn from a lot of younger. Those guys are and were my mentors, right? Especially the early days. So it's not. I think sometimes we think mentor has to be somebody popular on TV, glamorous, S-class, private jets. Oh, that guy is my mentor. Everybody see my mentor. Flashy mentor. Some of the mentors that will give you the most impact, nobody knows them. But they have substance. And it's not, substance is not proportional to popularity.
Yeah,
popularity has nothing to do with substance, right? It's not, you don't have to be popular to have substance. It's nothing. Nobody might know you, right? So I think I just added that as a bonus, right? But I think it's very important because a lot of people are like, I'm looking for mentors, but they're looking for celebrities, not mentors. That's the difference, right? Mentors are all around you.
This guy has done it again.
The guy does it all the time.
He
doesn't even know that he's doing it.
He has done it again. I used to be in the class of those guys looking for celebrity mentors. You're looking for that guy who has done 20, 30 years in one industry. He's the one that everybody's looking. That guy will not have the time. You will struggle to have that time.
You will not have your time. Yes, and I tell people sometimes they're trying to connect me with some very big people that this guy, you should talk to this guy. And I examine them. I look at their schedule. And I'm like, this person cannot. It's not like the person doesn't want to. The person just doesn't have the time. One of my uncles hooked me up to one of the major, an executive director in one of the major banks. And that guy, it was clear that guy just did a favor to my uncle by seeing me, right? He was not present in that meeting. He just wanted to tick that box. I'm like, this one cannot mentor anything. There's no, not because he doesn't want to. He was just so busy. He had no emotional attachment to me whatsoever. There was no community. Imagine going to somebody in Bowen and saying that, please, you can be my mentor. There's already that framework of, we come from Bowen together. If nothing else, that's a commonality, right? We're in this industry together. We're in this neighborhood together. We're in this church together. We're in this school together. We're in something. And you can be my mentor. It's not, it's just you're just looking for a Dangote. You'll not have a mentor. You'll be on your own if you keep waiting for Dangote or $10 to come and mentor you.
John, I see your hands up. Is that an error? You were going to say something?
No, actually, it's not. I didn't want to forget to say this about community, that there is also a negative that we should all look out for
in the community.
So, for example, in communities, yes. So, for example, one big one I want to talk about today is in the tech community. When a founder raises money, we say congratulations.
When they fail,
that's a problem. When I raised my last raise, the one before the last one was the one that we were almost dead before it happened. And I had gone through this rigorous 3 months of, everything, the process, right? We were in debt, me and Modele had not received pay for months. Luckily, she's, in African context, a man covers the woman, right? So she has a husband that covers her. But I'm man in my own situation, right? So it had been a tough period for us. Because America is behind us, the alert came at maybe 3 a.m. or so, which would have been, whatever time there. I woke up, I saw the alert. I tapped my wife because she's been beside me going through all this, I show her the alert and I put the phone down, and that's when I start to sleep. She was like, you don't even celebrate. Bro, the first thing that happened to me is that the sense of and the weight of the responsibility just hit me. When you don't have money, you have problems that are chasing you to pay for. When you have money, you now have a sense of responsibility that, or more, I have to deliver now because I am accountable to the person who gave me this money. Now, where you should be careful is that in our community, your guys will now start standing up when they eat and saying you should pay. Your family members will start sending you their requests. People will start hailing you and expecting something to drop from you. And if you are not careful, I've seen founders that would have spent $1 million. And if they at least even bought something you can see, you will say, okay, they didn't buy anything. It just went to food here, plot here, this solving this problem. And of course, they also doing things they shouldn't do. So we need to understand that community is great, but also know where to cut it. One of the things my family members know about me is that I cannot be influenced to do anything. And I'm the second to the last child, so out of 7. In fact, out of 9, because my dad had 2 daughters before, my mom 7 kids, so add all of us together were 9. But they know that this one, if it does not make sense to him, he will not do it.
Yeah.
It's not stubbornness. And I always tell them that if I do what you want me to do and I fail, it's my face that will be unthinkable. Or being able to say no to your community when the pressure coming from your community will lead you astray is also very important. Raising money, it's not your money.
It's not your money.
It becomes your money when you make profits, then you and the investors share. That's the one that is your own. Right? And if you don't have a structure, a lot of times you give in. Now, the reason why I don't give in is because in Construct, I have such a tight structure, I can't remove money from Construct. My chief of staff, she's here. She knows if Modele does not sign off on anything, it will not happen. So no matter what you beg me, no matter how you tell me, no matter what you say, I've even structured it out of my hands. Because the guys who spent money the wrong way were not bad people. But they just didn't put enough structures, and when the pressure came, they gave in because they could give in. So when you talk about community, also look for sometimes the downside of community and make sure that you can rise above those things as well. Just speaking to Emmanuel.
All right. Thank you very much, John. Any other questions? I want to wrap up. I want to be sure that I end it at 12. John and Tunde, my final question to you guys, and then we just call it a day, is if you were going to build again, if you had the opportunity to start over again, would you be a founder?
You saved the toughest question for last.
Would you be a founder again? Would you do this journey, or you just go and work for somebody and be collecting salary?
The reality is that I would be a founder again. Right? not because it's easy, but because I think that as a person, one of the things that you must do is know yourself and know what you can deal with and what you can't. First thing is to accept that everything will be difficult, whether working for somebody or being a founder. Then choose the one that you can live with. And I think that the one I can live with is the one where, you know, I am more impactful. I'm able to define culture. I'm able to, I always say that I will bring a bazooka to a knife fight because I trust myself. If I meet the other guy with a knife, I'll put my bazooka down, take a knife and give him a fair fight. But I don't trust the other guy. If I come with a knife and he has a bazooka, he may have blown me away before I figure it out. So for me, part of why I like to be a founder is because I want to determine culture. You know, there are certain things that I've incorporated into how I build, you know, just how I treat my team, how I treat my staff, you know. And I believe that it helps me set a standard. You know, sometimes some people see me out, they see me with a member of my team. They're like, ah, that person work for you? I say yes. And the person sitting here, I say yes. You know, a lot of employers think that the people that work for them are subjects and not people. I say, no, my own people are people. Right? And for me, I feel like Nigeria needs a lot of more good examples of how things can be done better. And being a founder gives you that opportunity. What being a founder doesn't do that a lot of people think it does is that you can do anything you want. It's a lie. As a founder, I'm still bound by all the rules that my employees are bound by. Recently in my office, HR said everybody must eat in the kitchen. I don't eat in my office anymore. Even if I have an enclosed office, I go to the kitchen. That's the rule. And it applies to everybody, including the founder. So I will be a founder again just because I want to be able to influence culture, but not because it's easier. It's not easier.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, yeah, same. I mean, I'll do it again. I do it differently, obviously, but with the benefit of hindsight, I always do it. And I think for me, I really like I feel like it's a job that engages me to the fullest. Let me use my creative capacity, solving problems. And I think the unpredictability is sort of interesting because one, you're just here on your own and something can happen. Now as I'm speaking to you, things are happening and you don't know how the rest of your day would go. So I enjoy the creative part of problem solving. I enjoy being able to make impact on people, people being external customers and even our employees, right? There's nothing that makes me happy than when somebody has stayed with us for a few years and they are much better than they were when they came. Is that kind of joy is unquantifiable. Or when I see people leave us and go and do amazing stuff, they are running their companies, they are doing very well, even if they left for competition. And they're like, oh, this guy is different. What do you guys do in Sycamore? And I always feel very happy when I hear feedback like that, right? So, I mean, for me, that building, the opportunity to build a company from scratch, to build people, to make impact, I think it will make me do this again, despite how difficult it is. So, yeah, that's it for me.
What's that one belief about startup that you no longer hold? Both of you.
One that I haven't talked about today, because I've spoken about most of them. Product first all the times. The fact that it's glamorous, where it really is not. Maybe the only one I'll add is that everybody needs to be a founder. Yeah. Everybody doesn't need to be a founder. There are people who are, no, everybody doesn't need to. To be honest, some people are cut out to be, good entrepreneurs, which is an entrepreneur inside the business or inside somebody else's business. So I think the biggest thing is know yourself, and I think we've said that in different ways on this call just know yourself. Know yourself. And if yourself, like I have a sister, my sister that was in KPMG, she's a fantastic manager. Like, fantastic manager. She's lucky to be married to a chronic entrepreneur, and they just complement themselves because she knows how to take it, build it into structure, and make a small thing become a big thing, right? And there are people like that. Don't necessarily need to be tempted to take it by yourself, and start it. Sometimes you'll be good at being a support to somebody else. What you can now do is that you can negotiate for what you want, right? If you bring value, you can say, for this value, I want 12 days holiday in a year, or, I don't know how many it is. If it's 12, you can ask for 24. If it's 24, you can ask for 48. You can ask for what you want. You can say, I'll bring this value and I want this perk, I want that perk. And if you really bring that value, you'll get it, right? And you might end up even doing better than the entrepreneur because you're not carrying as much of a burden as that person. So I think the last one I will leave as a misconception that I would like to debunk for people is that everybody needs to be a founder. I don't think everybody does.
Thank you, John. Thanks so much. Tunde, I don't know if you have anything, but that's fine.
No, it's fine. I think I just now I agree 100%. I said it earlier that we're all builders. And people are just you can't build any company without employees anyway. So I feel like the people building with the founders are just as important. I think maybe everybody's trajectory is just very, very different in terms of the way we will build companies. In fact, one of the things that is even recently happening, a lot of people are challenging the Silicon Valley definition of startups now because they've seen that it's not exactly panning out in Africa the way a lot of people thought it would 10, 15 years ago. So there are 3 terms that have come up that in Africa, should we be trying to build unicorns, or should we be trying to build gazelles? Okay. Should we be trying to build camels? Somebody said camels. Somebody recently said zebra. Those are the 3 alternative animals I've heard apart from unicorn. So there's zebra, there's camel, there's gazelle, right? And people are just like, do we need to rethink it? Do we need to be raising in naira? Do we need to be doing more? Should it be the normal precedes with everything, right? So I think I've come to embrace the fact that whatever we are building is certainly going to look different from whatever is being done in the West. So we should feel creative enough to make our own playbooks, as long as it is impactful and giving value to the business, the shareholders, and the community at large.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for that.
Today I need to engage you to talk about that a little bit more later.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a thought I've been thinking about too.
John, please don't let me leave the WhatsApp group. Add me to the WhatsApp. Knowledge everywhere, man.
You're an admin.
Knowledge everywhere, man. All right, so thank you very much, everyone, for joining this session. Tunde and John, I didn't even imagine that this is what the conversation would be today. I had it scripted. I had it in my head. I knew what it was going to be like in my head. But I woke up to 2 of you. Amazing speakers. It was fun. I never used to know that guys used to gist this much. Like, we've been gisting since, it's ladies that used to do this and they're all just chatty, but we've been on this call, just having great fun. Next month, this is the last for this month, and next month we look at the market, just looking at how we bring the operators within the market to come and speak to founders. We're going to have a lot of operators looking at it from the operators' perspective, because again, founders' perspective is that the investor want my equity, the investor, I want to raise money, I want to do this. What are operators even saying? What's the market telling the operators? Because operators get their hands burnt with different kind of founders. They speak to different founders every time. Let's hear from the operators. Let's see how the operators are even thinking about the African market. So it's what our goal is for next month. 4 sessions planned out for March. It's just about the operators, the market, what's the market saying, what are the trends within the market, what are the signal that the market is even giving when it comes to fundraising itself. And that will start from next month. Tunde and John, if you have amazing guys within the operating space that you would love to bring to Umbrella Saturday, please, I would love to have them. I love to even hear how they think, how they see it, how they feel it, so that founders can also start to. John, you said something. You need to think about it the way the person who you want to speak to or speak to, would want it to be. So that's what we're looking at. How do these guys even see founders? Because left alone to me, everybody's building almost similar products these days. What's the USP? What's that unique thing? Someone said to me the other day I was speaking to some investors the other day, and the guy said the only thing he's investing in now is something that has never been thought of. He puts me on a reality check again. I'm like, something has never been thought of. He has to be extremely unique. And there are family offices in Dubai that's the only thing they invest in. It must be a unique idea that is not anywhere in the world. That's what they want to invest their money in. They don't mind you just growing and scaling that entire idea together, They're just looking for something different. That means they must have sat on 1,000, 2,000 calls, and it seems like everything is similar, right? So for me, I think that's what we want to do next month, just looking at it from the operator's lens rather than the founder's lens. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the call. Tunde, I appreciate your time. John, I don't take it for granted. You are the big man in this game. And I look forward to having you guys on a very different conversation, maybe before the end of the year or maybe sometime next year when you raise more money and do more amazing things with the business and open more businesses. Someone said, is it possible to be a founder and have other 5 startups? Tunde and John, is it possible? Is the headache of one?
Nothing in the world is impossible. Is it ideal? Will you be great at all 5? That's the question.
Yep. It's not. So there's a benefit of focus, right? If you disperse your energy too much across other things, it will be difficult. So I would say if you need to do more things, maybe the business needs to get to a certain point before you then start adding more feather to your cap. But at the very early stage, when you're building from scratch, especially if that is really your main source of income, I think it will be very difficult. It's not impossible. Like John said, anything is possible. But the strain it puts on you, it's a lot. I mean, Elon Musk is running, 2 maybe almost $1 trillion companies, right? But that's Elon Musk. Can you do it? It's possible. It's not impossible. So it can be done. But
so those businesses, were they both startups at the same time? Or did one?
So that's the thing. No, not exactly, to be honest. And behind both of them, they were not even okay. So first off, he had made a lot of money from PayPal, so he had a lot of money when he exited PayPal. So he started those businesses with big capital, not enough for both of them, but there was like millions of dollars. But those businesses had technical geniuses behind them.
Yes.
So he was the business and marketing guy. The positioning guy, yes, he's an engineer, but he wasn't the key engineer in both Tesla and SpaceX. Wasn't the key engineer by any stretch of the imagination. So that also where partnership comes into play. You can probably have 10 businesses if you have people that are very strong and you are just maybe giving oversight. You're not this thing, but you're the main man, the alpha and omega in all 10 of them. I wish you all the very best. You're dead.
All right, guys. I will call it a day now. Thank you very much. Have a great day, guys. Bye.
Pleasure. Thank you so